So welcome very much, everybody. Fantastic to see all of you, so many people, some lovely faces. Many, I know and love all these people. The way that we're going to do this session is we're going to start off with a run through of, let's say, what's coming up for Davos, what to expect, and particularly what new things that we've been doing from the unDavos community side. So the summit, there's delegations, there's Davos Week as well. Then we're going to do a little detour, but it's a very relevant thing is to Davos is really a context. It's almost like a sort of a canvas for us to paint ourselves and the interactions that we want. But then within there, how do we behave as leaders? Do we connect together? How do we get as much as we possibly can? So that it's very useful to bring on Mark as a real proper subject matter expert on, let's say, the human side of Davos, whilst also being very strongly business oriented. And then we have time at the end for questions, concerns, or other things as well. And the session is being recorded as well. We will also have transcription agents as well, so that for those people that are listening to it afterwards, welcome later. And this is going to be the first. We will have a number of other sessions. We're just right now designing a session that will come out for those people that are organizing Davos events, because you have different needs to the general public. So with that, I will go to the next slide. And I'll just start by kicking off with just a few key insights. So for those people who don't know, so we're talking about Davos overall. We will be talking about unDavos, but for those of you who don't know Davos, the way that I always present it, so if ever you're talking to people, do you do Davos? What I ask quite often is, do you know the World Economic Forum? If they say no, I have to do the explanation to say 3,000 of the world's presidents and CEOs all gather on a tiny, nice, very nice Swiss town called Davos every year. And that's for the people that don't know Davos. But there are some people that nod and say, yeah, I know Davos. And there are some people who go, yes. And then the response is, have you ever been? In which case, yes. And then this, would you like to go? Because I can help. And in fact, all of you in this unDavos community right now are able to help people come to Davos, because if you're able to put them in touch with me, other community and members, it allows people, particularly who should be on that stage and could easily be part of the conversation, it gives them a way to access it. Now, what I'll be doing with my section, so I've got the first pass, is I'm just going to give a little brief intro for those people to catch them up on Davos. And I can also say what we're expecting in 2026 overall from a WEF perspective and other perspectives. Then I'll be talking about Davos Delegations, which is a new way for people to effectively do Davos like a WEF member, but this is just not WEF. We'll go into the unDavos Summit, which many of you have known, and I can see many of you here are also former speakers as well. And then there's Davos Week, the app as well, that helps you navigate everything that is going on. If there is any questions that come in, please shout them out. Robin is the sort of the proper host for this session. But so if there's anything that I'm missing, put them in. But mostly we'll cover sessions at the end rather than as we go through. So if we look at Davos, so Davos right now, there are about 20,000 people that go to Davos during the week. Probably total, if you looked at everybody, including day trippers, it might even be hitting 25,000. So there are more and more people that are Swiss-based or whatever, close by, Munich-based, who come in for the day. The World Economic Forum has 3,000 delegates. They have another 1,000 delegates that have partner tickets, their accredited badge. So therefore, the World Economic Forum has 4,000. And therefore, there's another 15, 60,000 on top who are all there as well. Many of those people are WEF members in some way. So the town of Davos is still around 65, 75% WEF. However, there are a lot of people that are WEF aligned. There are a lot of people that are, let's say, doing things that just aren't connected to WEF, but could be. And then there are some events that are really strictly outside. But what it's meant is that my first Davos back in 2008 was pretty much 95% WEF. Now WEF is around 20% of the content and around 20% of the audience. Still extremely important. And I can also genuinely say that were the WEF to move to a different place, the community would move as well, because they already tried to do that when they thought about Singapore, and they tried to do that for the change of a year. So we know that there is even if the WEF is, let's say, important only for, let's say, 20% core, it's one of those anchors that has a gravitational pull that pulls people in. Then the next thing to understand Davos is that now, it used to be 15 years ago that everywhere was empty because people weren't buying baby clothing or kitchen furniture. Now, though, you have all of those empty shops have become side events, and there are 120 of those venues that have been authorized by the city. The hotels have events, people do events in chalets. So last year, we know and could keep track of over 1,000 side events This year is likely to be even more. And just to show how much the side event ecosystem has actually gone street legal, the World Economic Forum themselves, for the very first time last year, authorized their member companies to sign up for WEF accredited side events, which is like WEFX. And they had at least 90 side events themselves with the WEF logo. In addition to that, if you want to know, well, okay, what will happen to side events? At the moment, there are two co-chairmen of the forum, interim chairman, and one of the chairmen, Andre Hoffman, he is one of the biggest contributors to most of the large side event venues, including SDG Tent, Arctic Base Camp. So if we're trying to think about, well, okay, what might happen for the WEF in the future, literally the head of the WEF, it's imagine Mark, me, being on the Davos World Economic Forum board. It's like that. So we see this side event ecosystem growing and growing. And also it's important to know that pretty much everybody there, you're looking at a basic amount of money that people are spending are about 5,000. There are very few people that can do it for anything cheaper than that. Many people are going as whatever individuals spending 10 or 20. You have many small companies are spending 20, between 10 and 30,000. A scale up might be spending 50 to 100. And the corporates that you have, the Accentures of the world, will be spending 5 million plus. Now, we're not doing it because we're stupid, we're doing it because it's worth it. And Davos, therefore, has become like, basically, it's a business souk. And I couldn't quite get my AI to make an image in time of executives being in Burning Man, but it is the closest you can get to Burning Man for many of these executives. Is it worth going? So right now, for me, there's the 3x rule. So given that the return rate is over 80%, in order for you to keep going to Davos and keep going to Davos, right now you need to have see 3 times the return. So if you spend 10K, you need to see 30K back. Now that's risk adjusted, and you're not selling hamburgers. But if you're looking to do a fundraise, if you're looking to find co-investors into investments that you're making, if you're looking for customers, you're a service company looking to grow, pretty much 3x is the target for pretty much everybody. And so because the return rate is so high, most people get this thing. Now, let's look at some of the reasons why people go. Build relationships, of course, meet investors. There's a lot of trust that exists within Davos, and it's almost assumed that if you're there, you're worth it. So right now, it's a very human place to do business. But there are, though, I will mention some challenges. It can be very hard to know what events are out there. It can be very hard to get access to those events. Sometimes even the insiders know that there's, let's say, a piece of the event that they know, and they have no idea if the other stuff is hiding behind the scenes. It can be very difficult to actually connect. And to some extent, if you could be really honest, if you could just meet the 5 perfect people and you could meet them in the airport before you get to Davos, that would be perfect, generally speaking. Now, quite often, so almost the game of Davos is how do you find the 5 perfect people? There are lots of different ways of doing this. But one of the key things that everybody then finds out is that the more prepared you are, the better off you will be. And that's not just prepared to go, but the more prepared you are to actually do your follow-ups as well. We're not going to cover that too much in this call, but I just want you to remind you of that. Now, let me talk of a big new thing. And so we spoke to a lot of people last year, in fact, over the years, and we found that there were more and more groups doing delegations. So a delegation was where people had structured sometimes accommodation, but it was also, let's say, all the things that you would do during the week. And I'll put that in. I feel the need to add in my LinkedIn as well. There we go. I'm part of the crowd. There were a lot of people then who had basically curating an experience. Where do you go? Who do you meet? How do you get access to VIP sessions if you really need to go? And also a lot of people, let's say, had private words with me last year about hotel badges. So for those of you who've done Davos for, let's say, 10 years plus, we know how everything works, mostly. For those people who might have done Davos a couple of years and known about hotel badges, what are these mysterious things? And last year, I know there were a lot of people that got hotel badges and they were sitting in hotels and thinking, what do I do next? Because after all, for some extent, many people are becoming insiders to some extent without necessarily the knowledge to know what to do with this insider knowledge, insider expertise. And by the way, I call these people naked badge people, although I can say that nobody was actually naked with a hotel badge, but that's good. What we've done, though, is that we've come up with a thing called Davos Delegations, and we have a website now that is live called davosdelegations.com, and I recommend that you all have a look. I can put this in here to the link. So what we have then is that we've looked at to say the unDavos Summit is by far and away the sort of best content program collectively. Now there are other programs and better programs for specific areas, but there's a collective program. So we have unDavos Summit. I'll talk about that in a second. We have rolling up of hotel badges, but also things to actually do in the hotels. So we have a Monday and Wednesday receptions as an example, but we'll have more as well. We're calling these things signature events. So signature events, the Swedish lunch. I don't know if many of you know that there's a Swedish lunch VIP, which is a sit-down lunch, but there's a Vici night VIP. There's actually quite a lot of VIP things and gala dinners. What we do, and it's similar to how hotel badges worked about 4 years ago, when the hotels began to clamp down on organizers just giving out badges, it then became required that, let's say, companies would need to buy 5 places at a table in order to get 5 badges, but very few people actually needed 5 things. What unDavos has done, and what we've done, is that we actually organize with these VIP events to have, let's say, a table for our delegation. And then what we do is that depending on what type of delegation package you have, then you select 1, 2, or however many. Another thing we're able to do, particularly enhanced with AI these days, but with good GDPR and use of data, is making curated introductions. So helping you get to the right people. So there's like an intro form that you fill out. I'm trying to meet these type of people. And then we will make the connections, not just the people in the delegations, but in the entire WEF and Davos world. So we're, let's say, very well connected. I think you could all understand. And then speaking slot is a visible thing. So we have that for the premiums. And we have, oops, I don't know if this is me scribbling and scrabbling, but then you have some price points down here. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail now, but the website is there for you to have a look at. And it might not be relevant for you directly, but it may be that you have other people that have never gone to Davos beforehand for whom it feels that it's a much more relevant thing. Key benefits then, you've got the signature events, we've got sessions on different topics that are key topics, we're getting this tailored networking. But the other thing that we're bringing very much into Davos, not just for the delegations, but into the summit, is attendee directories. And if I just describe that shortly, we all know what it's like. We've gone into a panel room. Now, you might be a speaker, you might just be somebody sitting in a panel, and you maybe talk to the people to the left and the right of you. But apart from that, you have no idea who else is in the audience. But if you're at a session on quantum technologies or investing in decarbonization, you'd love to meet the people. What we've done then is we've worked with got good legal advice on how we can handle networking events and people sharing their data in a correct way. But the real goal then is that now imagine that you sign up to a program on climate, and you know that there are 200 other people that are there, and you can get access to their LinkedIn, and you can already network with them before Davos even takes place, and then doing the follow-up afterwards as well. So we see attendee directories as being a really big improvement, and I think all of us should almost be expecting these things, but this is something you were bringing. I won't do too much on this, but I will skip over into the next thing. So that was delegations has moved on. Next one, we're looking at practical tools and tips. One thing that we've begun to do is we've begun to use Reddit as a global platform for the Q&A on how to do Davos. Before, we've had just a PDF form, which gets updated every once in a while, but we did an Ask Me Anything on Davos Week. There are maybe about 40 or 50 questions answered in there. And so if you are Reddit members, it's free to use. You don't even have to be a Reddit member to look at it. It's just r/Davos Week, and you can get access, and you can also ask questions and we will respond in there. This is then helping to get more out of Davos. The next thing that I also wanted to highlight is just the ecosystem. So Davos is, over the years, let's say the organizers are working much better together. I think particularly when organizers have been frantic about sponsors, they tended to not really talk to each other. But gradually, I think a number of the organizers have just got better at understanding a business model that makes sense, but also an understanding a business model that, let's say, develops and improves the community. And so Global Communications, now they would have been known for us old timers as the Swedish lunch. They're a lot more than the Swedish lunch and the brunch and the car collectors thing and a Vici night and many more things. But these are one of the core members of the ecosystem. And if Alex or his brother Marcus is here, hello. There are events like Arabian Nights. There are many other events. And in fact, at the beginning of this year, the unDavos team actually reached out to 250 of the event organizers, and we had almost like 100 conversations to work out what do people want, what can make things better, so that we can help coordinate our efforts behind the scenes, and also for many of you in the room here, so that we can all get more by sharing and helping others. Oops, did I skip over? Next thing then, the slide might have gone out of order, is the unDavos Summit. So the unDavos Summit, do I have by the numbers? I'll just ignore the slides went out of order. But so the unDavos Summit, we had about 3,000 delegates last year. We had about 300 speakers. And so unDavos Summit is primarily a content platform. Now, Global Conversations have more of a social platform with some content, but our stuff is very much content. And we had last year 70 panel sessions. This year will be around 100. And this is just giving you a preview of the big topics that we have. Now, many of them are repeated topics that we've done for years because they're very much Davos topics. Some of them that I will pick out: rewire the enterprise, rewire the organization. This is then pretty much combining AI and corporate innovation, but it's really looking at how companies can go AI native. So if this is something you're working on, definitely have a chat to us on that. Big questions. So big questions is our catch-all for 45-minute panel slots on the future of X. So this is where we get into that. Deep Tech is having an extended program. What I would suggest is that if there are any of these things that resonate, shout out, please get in touch with us, because we're looking for people that could speak. We're looking for content partners that have great networks. We're really looking to help develop these things, even media partners as well. Another thing I'll just highlight here is we have TEDx. So we brought TEDx Berlin. And so technically it's not TEDx Davos, it is TEDx Berlin that travels to Davos. But we actually have a full recorded session which goes onto the global TEDx platform as well. And we have, that one is special because we're allowed to do interview formats, not just talks. So that's good. For the location that we have, the location is at the Mountain Plaza Hotel, which is a 4-star hotel at Davos Platz. But we'll also have venues, we'll have some space in the Belvedere Hotel. And then we're also working with other venues on the promenade itself to do partnerships. So many people struggle to fill a room. For those of you who've been to an unDavos session, sometimes it's extremely hard to get in a room. And if you're in the room, it can be hard to breathe. So right now, then, we're able to extend our programming, our content, and all around this philosophy of sharing things and helping others. All of this stuff is based in Davos, and primarily it's Davos Platz. The only thing that will be separate will be the Magic Davos Party, which will be a Davos store. I do want people to get involved. On the unDavos website, you can already apply to be a speaker. The form will work right now. We are changing the program a little bit from what's there, but you can already put in your topics that you want. So you can apply to be a speaker. You can be a content partner. So at the moment, I have a call out for people who can help develop the programs and to develop specific panels. And what that means then is that if you're really working on decarbonization, and this is your topic and you're the person best well known, we'll definitely have a chat because we can talk about what's the narrative, who are the speakers that should be brought in. And then we can collaborate also just to make sure that we can cover the business model. Davos is not a cheap place. For people producing events, it's around 20% more expensive than last year. So it's not cheap, but that does also mean that we have contributions that come in. We have people that contribute if they're selected as a speaker. Now, we do have a separate independent speaking process, and anybody that would pay to speak would only pay if they're accepted. And if they're not accepted, any money paid will be given back. But that's because I don't want to be at an event where it's paid to speak. I don't think any of us would really want to be there. We want to be there on our merits. At the same time, we've got to be realistic. These things are extremely expensive. And unless it's one big corporate writing a check, we need to then share and help support with the production costs. We do our branding opportunities. We are looking for media partners as well. And if you have any extra ideas, we are very open to collaboration. So please reach out and have a chat. We can see what we can do. Next thing then that's important on how things are changing. And I'm going to go on for another maybe 3 minutes or so. The first thing then is that we're going to have a program ticket. So unDavos Summit will still be free to attend. However, we will have a limited capacity of free seats, and sometimes the number of free seats will be 0. Behind the scenes, let me tell you that every one of our sessions, every single one, had a minimum of 200 people asking to attend, and the most popular ones had over 800 people applying to attend. We have people traveling all the way across town and sometimes even sponsoring, and they and their team aren't able to get in because we just didn't have any way of fairly organizing things. So what we're going to have now is we've looked at, let's say, how to give people value. If you're in a program, you will get the attendee list for that program to allow you to do your networking and your outreach before, during, and after, as well as having priority access to all of the programs, priority RSVP. So we're going to have a program ticket. But then on top of that, there are people that want to attend multiple programs, and that's where we have the access pass. The access pass includes one program ticket. And even if you didn't sign up to all of the other programs, you'll be given speed access. So there will be free access to the summit still. However, if you want to, let's say, guarantee a seat, definitely these two things. The other thing regarding the access pass is that we did have a number of sessions such as the Unconference and Ignite talks. These ones, it'll only be available to do that if you have an access pass. Now, one of the reasons is that to help cover our costs last year, we asked for donations, and I'm very sorry to say that not a single person made a donation. And so Santa has said he's not going to give out coal because that doesn't really matter. We can use coal for other stuff. What we can say is that, look, we do genuinely have costs to cover this thing, and we're finding out the fairest way possible that we can divide our costs. And again, rather than having a big sponsor, and we do have the Magic Davos ticket as well. So that's the next one. And then I think last two slides, and then Mark, it'll be over to you to talk about, let's say, how do you do this thing in practice? The last piece that I wanted to share is the Davos Week app. Davos Week was used by over 3,000 people. They spent an average session about 5.5 minutes, and there were about 1,000 events that were uploaded. It pretty much makes Davos usable. You can type in fintech and it'll find all the fintech events, and then you'll be able to register. For attendees, it's there, but I have something that's going to come up with a freemium thing that I'll share. And then for organizers, we have a way for the crowd to submit, but we already worked last year with some organizers that want us and the team to actually put things in for them. And we also have highlighted sessions. We also have ways for people to really share content to this very large audience. And therefore, I just wanted to share that we will have this here a freemium model. We haven't nailed down exactly which features would be free, but which would be paid for. But it will be free to use the app. But one feature, for example, says add to my calendar. That one, click. We're only looking for 50 francs, but we need to have a way of covering our costs. And since we don't have a big sponsor putting in the sort of 30, 50K, at least if we can neutralize a little bit, then we're able to all get more by doing that. And then we do have sponsors and partners that can also do more. But so that was just the last thing I had on Davos Week. And my concluding thoughts then is that Davos, fundamentally, it is a platform. It's not a place. It's a sort of time and space. And everybody is effectively spending so much time and so much money being there, very genuinely. Everybody is really trying to get out the best they possibly can. And so with that, it makes a very intentional time and space to pretty much get, if you do it well, whatever you want done and more, and not just for yourself, but helping others as well. And with that, I'll wrap up and we'll have some questions afterwards. But then if it's okay, I'd like to hand it over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I guess you can all see that Mark knows a little bit about Davos, right? It's good to see you all. If you can take the screen back to everybody, it'd be great. In fact, I'd love to see everybody. Is there a way of doing that? Awesome. Good morning from Los Angeles. My name is Mark Sadovnick. I'll probably know some of you, and maybe some of you will even know me. But quick background on me. From Montreal. Bonjour, bon matin pour toutes. I am McGill, CPA, Deloitte, Montreal and Toronto. A little fast forward, headed up. I got recruited to Miami through Winnipeg, Canada. I got recruited to Miami to head up a global leadership development organization, nonprofit. At a lot less money than an offer I had to get my dream job with a professional hockey team. So I am maybe the biggest features of my background is I have 3 boys and a bonus daughter that married my middle son, and they're all here in Los Angeles with me doing what they do. And we actually came to Los Angeles because my 2 younger boys got noticed for acting, and they're doing fine, and I'm still waiting to get discovered is what I tell people, but they're doing fine. And I don't know what the problem is, but if anybody has any suggestions or can manage, that'd be great. And then I got into the executive search business in Miami after traveling around the world, meeting great leaders and meeting a lot of sucky ones too, to be honest. That made the great leaders, made the good leaders look great and the great leaders look unbelievable. So that's a little bit of my background. And about 7 years ago, launched with a few other partners, Fifth Element Group. Not the movie, but Fifth Element Group is a for-profit public benefit corp. And we launched it at the UN headquarters in New York on International Women's Day, because we have done and we still do a lot of work in women's leadership and empowerment. And this all flows into what Mark's talking about as well, because there's a lot of alignment here. And we've grown it. And what we do along the way, I trademarked the term leaders who care. And it came about from a lot of experiences I've had in my career about leaders who really did care about me, did care about both making money and making an impact, having purpose at the same time, which again aligns really well with what Mark was referring to on how to be in Davos. And we work, what we are basically, our core business is about talent and leadership. We represent family offices, we represent corporates, we represent a lot of founders and growing companies, especially that to help them attract the very best talent, because the very best talent we work with wants to make great money and have purpose and make a difference in their life as well. And that really is the key. Leaders Who Care is also, it is about hugging, but that's not the only thing we do is hug. We do like hugging, but it's not the only thing that we do. And we also have people that help our clients amplify whatever impact they want to make, whether it's food security or education or water or poverty or hunger, a lot of different things. Or even what I just came back from Saudi Arabia a couple of months ago that wasn't on my bucket list, to expand ice hockey and figure skating and everything around it in Saudi Arabia. Who would have thought that would be something that we'd be working on? So I want to first congratulate Mark for all he does, because I remember my first time in Davos. I'm going there, and initially it was a place. For me anyway, not a platform. It was a place, and I didn't know what it would be like, and it was actually amazing. I love international anything, and but it's, you can get overwhelmed when people say, "Are you going to this? Are you going to that? Did you do this? Where are you going now? What are you doing? What are you doing for dinner?" and all that. You can't get into the restaurant. Yeah, but I want to go to this thing in the hotel. You don't have a badge. And holy cow! What are you going to do? And you find yourself sitting at the one of the trucks and grabbing a bite to eat, and maybe meeting some great people that way. Where the fellow is with the sculpture of a homeless entrepreneur, and talking to him and things of that nature. So I want to chat a little bit about the human aspect of Davos, and if I can, how to be in a place like that. There's a couple of quotes that we use in our business a lot, and my favorite of all time is Maya Angelou. Any of you heard of Maya Angelou? You can raise your real hands if you had. But she said, most people will forget what you said, most people will forget what you've done, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And it's a classic line, and it really works. Even with robots coming and AI and everything, people still want to feel good. And another quote we use is, clear is kind. In other words, clearer you are about what you're looking for, what you're asking somebody, or what maybe a boss is telling an employee or a coach is telling a player what to do, the clearer you are, the kinder you are. And this all relates to how we look at Davos as how we want to be, and what your purpose is of being there. I assume a lot of you have the purpose of being there to develop business relationships for whatever you're doing, but also maybe hopefully the passion for meeting some great people, and hopefully even friendships, because all of that kind of come together. And one of the things we have found is that and I'll do a lot of sports analogies, if you will, but it's like when you get to the playoffs and you get to a championship in a sports event, or a client is looking to acquire a fast-growing startup and there's two others bidding for it as well. You got to remember to actually enjoy the experience while you're there, as at the same time as you're trying to achieve your goal. And one of the things that helped me a lot, if you will, was the difference between FOMO and JOMO. I don't know if you all know that, but FOMO is the fear of missing out. And JOMO is the wonderful thing called the joy of missing out, because you can't go to everything. And it's okay not to go to everything, actually, because you'll need somebody to take care of your nervous breakdown when you get back. And that's where what Mark is offering is tremendous for anybody, especially people that haven't gone often, but for anybody to not have you go in that space, because you can't do everything. You can't be on this panel and that panel and they overlap by a half an hour type of thing, or see people in the same way. I've had a lot of discussions recently had it recently actually at Purdue University. I spoke to 150 young entrepreneurs, and they were all talking about we really are competing for all the companies coming into our university. We're competing to get the jobs. But then someone else would say, yeah, but we're collaborating in the way that we have the best students in our university. So they do come to our university to talk about jobs that we would get. And in some ways, that's a little bit like how you can approach Davos too. Everybody's competing to get the best contacts, the best relationships, get into the best thing, get noticed and whatnot, which is fine. But I'm going to say this a lot to Mark's point. The more you collaborate, the more you care about being interested in other people rather than just being interesting about yourself, the more you're going to achieve in whatever your purpose is at Davos. And that means recommend people to maybe panels that you know somebody on a panel that has a certain expertise, and Joe or Jane recommend them to be on that panel. That's a great gift to that person. The people having the panel, they'll love that they did that. And it comes back. And do it, as generic as it sounds, do it just because it's a good thing to do. Don't do it because you want them to give you something back. I'll get you on this panel, and then you message, yeah, but if you could do this for me, just, I would love to recommend you for this panel, period. And keep notes about what you're doing, but do that. Intro people to other people. Crazy thing happened at the last Davos. In a weird way, not in a weird way, I was in the bathroom, but I was in the bathroom, and in a weird way, I met a fellow there who was a senior partner in Ernst & Young. And he saw me wearing, Mark's seen this cap, I think, because I wore it all last year. He saw me wearing this cap, which says Canadien Hockey, which is, if I didn't mention this, I'm a major hockey fan. And growing up in Montreal and helping with the birth of the Florida Panthers way back when and all that. We're trying for a three-peat, but it's getting tough so far this year, but that's another conversation. But I wore this hat a lot because I had started conversations with, that's how the Saudi thing started, where they said, you should speak to the Saudis about hockey and whatnot. And I was wearing this hat. And then I started wearing it at Davos, and it's just a thing that people seem to love Canadians, and I'm Canadian and American. I guess they think we're nice people, but we're also not a threat to them, is what we think also. That's probably it. But this hat, just wearing it in town, even at events, people came up to me and said, oh, you're from Canada. Oh, you love hockey or whatever. And things came up. I'm not saying you should all go out and buy these hats because I don't know if there's enough for you. But if there's something that differentiates you, it could be an amazing scarf that says unDavos on it, or it could be anything that becomes a conversation point that you say to someone else, hey, great hat, great coat, great this, great that. It sounds so simple, and it sounds, wow, I can't believe I went on this webinar session to hear that. I already know that. But I coach a lot of executives on doing a lot of things, and there's a lot of smart people. There's a lot of people at Davos. How do you differentiate yourself in a not sales way? And so just even something as simple as that got me tons of interactions with people. Going into what Mark also said before about how do you prepare? There's pre-Davos, there's during Davos, and there's post-Davos. You'll notice a lot of people are using QR codes now. I don't have a business card anymore. I use QR codes, right? And first thing maybe you want to do is you want to get more QR codes and cards than give out QR codes and cards. Because you may have given all your cards out and have no idea who you gave them out to or didn't keep track of it. And if they don't call you, then what happens? Pretty well nothing. So I would ask people that you're speaking to, it'd be great to get your card and learn more about what you do in your business and whatnot, because a lot of the people you'll talk to, you'll develop strong relationships quicker with some, but with others, it's going to take follow-up. And that's maybe the biggest part, Davos. And so always try to get a card or try to ask them if they have a QR code. If they don't have a QR code, offer to share how they can get one on their phone. Another good deed of the day, if you will. And then you're able to help them with that and get their QR code and get their card. And obviously, if you have a QR code, it's a lot easier to share your information with them as well. Pre-Davos, as in like right now, taking advantage of what Mark offers is spectacular. It just puts things in place so much. But on top of that, there's people on LinkedIn saying, I'm going to Davos. There's people in the chat that are saying, I'm going to Davos. And speak to them and say, how can I help you? What are you looking for in Davos? What are you doing there? Do you know Mark Turrell? Things of that nature. Again, it's about being more interested in other people than interesting about yourself, because it'll always come back with, yeah, what do you do? And by the way, I didn't finish the bathroom story because I was moving along to. So I met this guy in the men's bathroom. We were washing our hands. It was past the other part. We were washing our hands, and he noticed this because he was a senior partner global, but based in Toronto. And so we started talking. Then his other partner came over, great lady, also a partner, and we started talking about different things. And they're from Canada. I'm from Canada. The hat, the whole bit. If I wasn't wearing the hat, I probably still would have said hi to him, but he said hi to me first because of the hat. That turned out to be a speaking engagement for Global EY on leaders who care, basically. And then we invited them to a conference called Forum for Impact in Toronto, which they got involved in, and so on and so forth. So I guess the moral of that story is always wash your hands before you leave the bathroom, basically, and other things that you can do. But there's different ways of meeting people. And I would always be flexible to pivot. If you're having a great conversation with somebody and developing a really good relationship, don't cut it off because of something you think you're going to miss somewhere else. If you miss it, go with the Jomo on that. If you can come away from Davos with, there's no secret sauce number, but if you can come away from Davos with 25 great relationships, great potential relationships and contacts, like for real ones that last and you make last by following up with them, and you've got information on what's interesting about them, then that's worth its weight in gold type of deal. Then there'll be others you can follow up with that you just met here and there and so on. I would take some time going through some points. So ask me, let me know how I'm doing on time, Robin and Mark. But I would take some time, even if it's a couple hours at least, if not more. And especially if you haven't been to Davos before, and just walk the main street. Just walk the main street, walk into a lot of the stores there that have some, obviously, Accenture, SAP, Google, whatever, all those. But then there's others too. You'll meet interesting people there and you'll enjoy the experience. You are in Davos, you are in Switzerland. The mountains are incredible. Hopefully it's a cold, crispy day and not a slushy day. And you enjoy the people and the energy of that will happen. You're going to meet other people that are doing the same thing. Generally, I meet people on the street there that I've known for a long time that are there, and then they introduce me to someone else or so on. But you'll miss out if you don't at least take a little bit of time to walk the streets and enjoy the experience and get some food from the food truck and get a coffee and walk into a place you're not supposed to walk into, but they let you in anyway. Things of that nature. The worst someone can say is, no, you can't get in. What do I have to do to get in? You have to smile. Okay, here you go. And you go in. One of the things I was going to go back to is you have a brand also. You know who you are. You know what your core values are. You know what your passion is, etc. Try to find panels. Try to find events. Try to ask people what's going on. Try to find out what the parties are. The parties aren't the only thing, but you do. A lot of people do go to the parties, the Arabian Nights, the Swedish thing, whatever. You do meet people there. It happens if you have the energy that you want to meet people, and you're not selling something. There's an expression. It's not an expression. I don't know if you all know Fleetwood Mac, but Fleetwood Mac, one song they had, and I can't remember the name of it, but it says thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you if they're playing. So thunder only happens when you're making stuff happen, and players only love you when you're playing. So if you're playing in a positive way in Davos and you're open to conversations and you're open to helping people, so much will happen from that. And guess what? When you contact them for a follow-up, they'll actually answer you and remember who you are. What some people do with their phone when they meet somebody is they'll take a picture of them so they remember the contact and whatnot. One of the big mistakes that we've all made is you get you might get their QR code and whatever, or the contact information goes into your contacts and you don't remember who they were, but they're in your contacts. So there are some QR codes that can help distinguish that, but it's also sometimes a good idea, especially if you're talking to a really good relationship that you think will happen, is make a couple of notes on your phone or paper or whatnot as to who they were and something special that was about them. And so that you don't forget about them. You say, man, I lost the card. I don't know where that person is and whatnot. So try to have a simple either QR code or simple way of making notes for that. And post Davos, that's all the follow-up stuff. And again, I'll stick with the same theme. I wouldn't follow up and say, dear Mark, great to meet you. I'd love to tell you about everything we do, type of thing. Or how about just, dear Mark, it was great to meet you. I was really interested in what you were talking about the speaker sessions that you're going to have, and I'm interested in that next year. Again, it's about how are you helping them? It'll come back to you what you do, but the energy will be a lot different than if it's all about you and you're running around. I had one fellow, a young guy he came out of an event once and he said, "Man, I got more cards than I can believe." But he didn't really talk to anybody. He just got cards. And then he contacts them and they don't know who he is, or they don't know, or they got 10 million other people calling them and whatnot, or trying to link on LinkedIn. Please don't just go back on LinkedIn when you leave and just say connect, because that's a waste of time. People just don't want to just connect. At the minimum, say, great meeting you at Davos, loved what you're doing, hope we can touch base again type of thing. LinkedIn did an amazing thing when they put the number 500 on LinkedIn to make you look like, supposedly you look like a loser if you don't have more than 500. So people just started connecting, but it's not the way to do it. And what I would do with people you've met too is not even necessarily, unless you had a really good conversation with them, not even necessarily follow them right away. Send them a message, great to meet you, this and that, I love what you're doing. And then a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, after, then follow them type of deal. So it looks for real, that you're doing it for real, a real relationship, not just, I want to connect and follow and it's going to happen by magic. The magic is the relationship that you build, and especially with key people that you do want to meet. So I guess if I wanted to give you like take home a homework or something like that, it's to follow the Fleetwood Mac thing about make your own thunder, but also to start thinking about how do you want to feel when you come back from Davos? Do you want to feel like, oh my God, I wasted so much money? Do you want to feel about, I'm exhausted? That was like crazy, which by the way, you'll feel that anyways. In sports, if you lose a game that went into overtime, or like the World Series of baseball went into 18 innings, if you lose that game, you're exhausted. If you won that game, you're feeling great, even though you spent all that energy. Try to, at one point, visualize or meditate or whatever you want to do it. How do you want to feel when you come home, when you're home? About what happened and how you want to feel, then go backwards and think about some of the stuff I talked about, some of the stuff Mark's talking about, what you have to do to have that feeling when you're back home from Davos. And not that it was a waste of money and oh my God, now I got real work to do. What am I going to, I don't have time to follow up or whatever, but a feeling of, wow, that was actually special. Wow, there's 4 people I really got to get back to. They were great. And even, wow, I made some great friends. Now I have a couch to sleep at in Switzerland or somewhere when I travel. So that's what I would have you take home from this, among other things. And if I can be of any help to any of you, feel free. LinkedIn to me, contact me, whatnot, and I'm happy to connect and share and help and make the world a better place. Thanks, Mark.
Very good. Thank you ever so much. Thank you for joining. And I think it really does add value, not just from let's say somebody that is professionally extremely human connected, also business oriented as well, but also very much fully on. It's almost like Mark, I think of you as like an embodied karma.
Okay.
Good things come around.
Yes, they do. There's a reason we trademark leaders who care. Is business leaders can care and should care and do care. Just give them a chance to care and help them.
Well, and I do think we will have so maybe then if I pull things together and then we do have space for questions as well, that I'm looking at the questions, is that so maybe not a lot of people know this, but unDavos Summit was actually the first AI powered conference basically when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, as far as we can tell, and we're definitely the first ones in Davos. We make exceptional use of AI just as a team, and it's our helper, it's our co-worker. And one thing that I just shared up here is that the transcript for this has been taken. Now, for those of you who are used to getting summaries and key highlights from Zoom, it's all crap. What you need to get is the underlying transcript, and then you can give it to another program and you can extract everything you need. So for those of you, I strongly suggest clicking on the link, downloading the transcript. It's there to be used and not to be hidden away. Other thing as well that I'd like to highlight, and I'm really genuinely very pleased, is that if I was following the chat, this is one of the few groups where everybody then said, hey, I'll share my LinkedIn. It's obvious if you think about it, and I have been clicking through and I've connected with you. Many of you I've known, and I've just said great to see you again, but other ones are brand new. This is the type of Davos spirit that we're looking for. It's just a new way of doing networking. It's a new way of connecting. It's cooler, it's more friendly. And for me, I always looked at the difference of back in 2008 when I went to Davos for the first time, I was one of the few people that actually stayed out at night. And I was staying at the cheap place in Cloisters that was still 10,000 for the week, for those of you complaining today, which I can understand.
I remember those days.
I could just afford it, that was all. But in those days in Davos, there were only 3 taxis driving at night. And what happened is that if there were 4 people queuing at 1 a.m., 3 people would get in cabs, each would pay $100 or $150 each. And the 4th person, me, I would have to wait literally 45 minutes for the cabs to come back in order to do the next round. That old world that we have was selfish. It was very ego-centered. Everybody also got a more miserable experience. They didn't really have the type of connections that you'd like to have. They didn't know what other people were doing. What we now see, and this session is a very good example, the way that we're collaborating even now is a good example, is that we'll all get more if we share, or when we share things and help others.
Can I offer something, Mark?
Sure, absolutely, yes.
So one thing I was just thinking I'm happy to offer. So we have a podcast called Leaders Who Care, where we recognize leaders who do care about making money and making an impact in the world. And I'll give it out to you if there's people you meet and you want to offer them something special again about helping them. You can say, I'll put the link in, but you can say, look, I can recommend you to be on the Leaders Who Care series, where they highlight people like yourself that are making a difference and making money and making an impact at the same time. And I'll put it in the chat, the link where you can see a lot of the Leaders Who Care as we've interviewed. They're entrepreneurs, they're corporate execs, they're family offices and whatnot. If that helps you as well, people love being recommended to be on a podcast that's positive about them and sharing about their business. So happy to offer that.
Very good, very nice. And this is the type of thing, again, we're really extending the capabilities that we all have. Now, we do have a few more minutes for questions. So I don't know if anybody has any questions they'd like to raise. I don't know how technically you need to do this, whether you need to raise your hand or just put the question in.
We can do a raise of hands. There's also a question in the chat from Cornelia. How do you manage to stay in touch with so many people?
That is a very good thing. So right now, my follow-ups this year was dramatically better than any previous year. So the first thing that I did is that I set up a Calendly, but I've also got a Google Cal that does it now and cal.com. And what I did then is that so people can book time in my calendar. First thing. Next thing is that I use text replacement on my phone. So instead of having to type an extremely long URL, I then go into text replacement, which is in the settings somewhere. You can just find it. And then I have a couple of shortcuts. So for me, when I type in VVB, I can do this thing. I won't put it in right now, just in case lots of people want to book time with me. And I run out of time slot. But if you do want to book time, I type in VVB and my long URL comes up immediately. So that allows me to do things faster. The next thing is that there was a rule beforehand that you would not do Davos follow-ups in the first 3 or 4 days. Stupid rule. Do them immediately. And the best thing you can do generally is if you do a LinkedIn or a WhatsApp connection, ideally do a little selfie together when you've taken a picture so you have some context, share your calendar. But what's useful is that you can tell if the person really wants to speak to you because they make an effort to book time and they book time at the first time available. Now, then what you'll need to have is that ultimately it depends on how many people you talk to, but you might need to have a CRM system. You might need to have a whole flood of AIs helping you out to do stuff. That definitely would be a topic for another session. But I do see that if you plan your call-ups or your follow-ups badly, you can still get massive amounts of benefit from Davos. So even just 5 people that you meet and 5 follow-ups you have can basically pay for a year. That's completely known. I've done that myself. But if you're able to do 50 instead, then you should do that because it's quite good.
And I would just make a note, a star, whatever you want, of who you may think is a deeper relationship, whether it's because you had an alignment with them or could be good for business or all of the above. Keep some notes about, I have to get back to these 10 people, and then the rest you can do accordingly.
Other things as well, another question that came up then is that for those people that wanted to join into panel sessions or be part of content, et cetera, please get in touch with me directly. So what people don't know is that there are actually very few people that are behind putting all of the unDavos system together. The team I like to highlight, there's Robin, And Nina, you would have met from last year. She's actually working full time, so hopefully she'll join us this year. But then we have Stephanie Kurtukis, who's based in Switzerland as well. But we have Louisa, who's an intern that's working for us now. She's studying in Paris. But the team is really tiny. However, we're able to pretty much put a 3,000 person conference on in Davos. Now that's because they're really good. Also because we really like processes, but then we're really good at using technology in general and then AI and some clever AI agent stuff specifically. But what it does mean that is that you don't have to whatever fight your way through to get hold of us. We're actually super easy to get hold of. And if you're doing any type of planning and working out, now is the time we need to get some stuff done. But I do see there was a hand there, Harpesh. Harsh Dipish. I'm sorry that I mispronounced your name. Yes, I don't know if you're able to, I can unmute you. There you go.
Yeah, now am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so my question was the same. Like, I wanted to join the panel. So I think that you have answered, and I visit your website. If you want, I am a software developer and designer. I can contribute to make a website that will convert more users and that will get SEO friendly. That will be my contribution for unDavos if you want. We can connect later also for that.
Yeah, that sounds good. And that sounds fantastic. And if you have any skills, expertise, as the podcast things, some people are building agents and stuff, definitely reach out. We're all becoming part of something bigger now. Look, on the comparison side, the World Economic Forum's minimum price for their companies is 250,000 francs a year. They charge 34,000 this year to be a ticket price. So we're definitely the upstarts in this thing. At the same time, I see that I feel for the WEF and that they do put together an exceptional program. The problem that they have is that with so much things being televised and everybody's supervised and surveilled, you don't really have as many open conversations as you might like to have. I think, therefore, that's why unDavos and many of the other exceptional side events create these extra places. But we can only put these things together with help, since we don't start with 800 people working for us. So if you do have resources, skills, ideas, things, reach out, because that's pretty much how this thing has grown so far. Bear in mind, 3 years ago, and some of you were there, 3 years ago, all we had was the basement of the Mountain Plaza Hotel, which only housed 30 people, and technically it was only 20, we just grabbed them in. That was all we had for a week, and that was only 3 years ago. Now it is genuinely the largest event at Davos apart from the World Economic Forum. And that's only possible through you and people really stepping up. So all of this stuff is very much appreciated.
Isn't that unbelievable? Unbelievable.
It's a great story.
It is. Thank you for the people that are leaving notes on LinkedIn connecting right now. You told them to not waste time. They're not wasting time, but at least they're putting notes when they're connecting.
Well, and I do see that we can all be dramatically more performant if we just have some of these hints. So there are people that, let's say, are able to spend more time thinking, or they're just autistically inclined, that they work out, let's say, more detailed ways of doing things that seem as though they should be done in a second. At the same time, we'll all benefit when we start sharing this knowledge. That's good as well. Okay, if there's any other questions, please contact us directly. Also, remember to use the Reddit. The Reddit is another great thread, and hopefully we can extract some of the questions on here. Robin, we should get our guy Michael to extract some of the questions and the answers that came up on the session and put them into the Reddit as well. So then not just us can get benefit, but then the wider public too. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, Mark, for coming along.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for Robin for hosting us, and thank everybody ever so much for being here. It's absolutely fabulous to see you, and I'm looking forward to January. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Peace.
Ciao.